Hi everyone, happy Friday. I hope you've had a fantastic week and are looking forward to a beautiful weekend. I want us today to wrap up everything we've been working on with multiplying fractions and mixed numbers because next week we're moving on with our life, okay? So today we're going to talk about the three different things that we've done with this. And I'm just going to put one example of how you could solve these up here on this chart. I am going to try my best to get this posted as a comment on here. Last time I did that, I couldn't get it to upload. We will keep trying and I'll see if I can get that figured out for you guys. So we have talked about multiplying fractions, multiplying mixed numbers, and most recently, finding fractional parts of a whole number. So we are going to use more pictorial representations for each of these. So remember what we've talked about. If you have a way to solve it and you get the correct answer and you understand why what you're doing works, then that's great, okay? But also remember that pictures show a deep understanding of what you are doing, okay? So we're going to do some pictorial representations of these different problems. So to start out with our multiplying fraction section, I have the multiplication problem, 3/4 times 1/3. If you remember when we worked on this together, we folded some paper, but today I'm just going to draw it because I think I can represent that flat instead of having to fold it, okay? So if I were folding my paper, I would fold it into fourths. So 4 equal parts, and I would shade in 3 of those parts with a color. Then, if I were folding paper, I would turn it the other way and fold it into 3 equal parts. So I'm going to do my 3 equal parts across. 2, 3. And I'm going to shade in 1 of those 3 parts, and I'm going to do it with a different color. So I'm going to shade in 1/3. And if you remember, what we did to find our product or our answer to our multiplication problem was that we looked at where the colors overlap. So I used orange and blue. So I'm looking for where I have both orange and blue colored in the same square. So I have 1, 2, 3 that have orange and blue. And my whole is partitioned into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 equal parts. So the product of 3/4 times 1/3 is 3/12. All right. Some of you may notice though, 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 3 is 12. Okay. So we want to make sure we understand our picture model before we just do it mathematically, okay? All right, multiplying mixed numbers. So I've got 2 different problems up here. So when we first started out with this, we used our paper fraction strips, right? And then we added on and started doing graph paper. And then we transitioned from that to using an area model that looks very similar to what you learned when you multiplied whole numbers in 4th grade. So that's how I'm going to show these problems, is using that area model. Now, when I do this, I have not left myself a lot of room to write my numbers. So I will switch colors to do that. I want to break down each of my mixed numbers into the whole number part and the fraction part. When you do it with whole numbers, you think about each place value. You might do hundreds, tens, ones. So I'm going to do my ones and then my fractional part. So 4 1/2 times 5 3/4. All right. So when I start to do this problem, I'm going to look at each box. It's kind of like coordinate grids in a way. You're looking at where they meet Because sometimes when people look at these, they're not sure what to multiply in which box, okay? So if I look at this box right here, this section, I'm looking at the number that's above it, which is 4, and the number to the side, which is 5, okay? So I'm going to do in this box 4 times 5. And what is 4 times 5 out there in math land? Oh, I can imagine that I'm hearing you and you said 20. All right. Then in this box, I'm going to multiply 5 times 1/2. So 5 wholes times 1/2. Well, I know that's going to give me 5 halves, right? But if I think about 5 halves, I know that 2 halves make a whole. Let me just jot that down. So I've got 2 halves make a whole. If I do another 2 halves, that's 4 halves. And then I have one more half, and that's my 5 halves. So I have 1, 2 wholes, and a half. So 5 times 1/2, 2, and 1/2. Awesome. Okay. This box, I've got 4 times 3/4. 4 wholes times 3/4. So I know if I have 3/4 4 times, that's 3/4, 6/4, 9/4, 12/4. Okay. So that equals 12/4. Let me come over here. So that's 4/4 plus 4/4. So remember, I'm doing my 4/4 because that makes a whole. 4/4 plus 4/4 is 8/4. And I know I can do another 4/4, and that's 12/4. So that gives me 1, 2, 3 wholes. All right, trucking right along here. And then my last box, I'm doing 3/4 times 1/2. And I know that I could draw a model if I needed to, or if I understand why the model works, I can multiply my numerators and multiply my denominators. So 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 2 is 8. So I got 3/8. All right. So when we get all the parts of our area model, we are ready to add those together to find our total product, okay? So I like to break it down into parts. I don't like to try to do the whole thing at once. But before I do that, I'm noticing I have different denominators. And if you remember, as we talked about this week, you can look in this box right here and notice our denominator is 8ths. That is usually going to be our denominator that we're going to use. So I'm going to change 2 and 1/2 to 8ths. 2 and how many 8ths is equal to 1/2? If you said 4/8, you got that just right. So actually now this is going to be super easy for me to add together. So I'm going to do my whole numbers. I've got 20 plus 3 is 23, plus 2, that's 25. So my whole number is 25. And then I've got 4/8 plus 3/8. That's 7/8. That's not quite a whole. So 25 and 7/8 is my product. Let's look at this one right here. So this one is a whole number times a mixed number. So I'm wondering if I can use a similar strategy to this, but it is going to look a little bit different, okay? So I would set it up this way. So I've got 6 times 2 and 2/3. I don't have anything down here because 6 didn't have a fractional part with it, okay? So right here, I'm going to do 6 times 2. What is 6 times 2? I know somebody out there said 12 because y'all are so smart. And then here, I have 6 times 2/3. So that's 2/3, 4/3, 6/3, 8/3, 10/3, 12/3. Okay? So, So when we had an improper fraction over here, we broke it down this way. And we can do this with this one. but I'm thinking about how many thirds make a whole. And my denominator tells me that 3/3 make a whole. So I'm going to think how many threes are in the number 12. So 3, 6, 9, 12. I can make 4 wholes without going over. So 12/3 is the same value as 4. So now I have 12 plus 4. So my product for this is what? It's 16. That was super easy. Now, like I said, other people have different strategies. This strategy is my favorite because it organizes it better for me. I like being able to see each of the parts this way, okay? So this one's my favorite. It may not be yours, but remember, different strategies work, right? All right, and then this is what we worked on with those recyclables that we've talked about the past 2 days. Fractional parts of a whole number. So we're going to find 3/8 of 32. And if you remember, we have looked at a bar model to represent our whole and to help us determine that fractional part. So my whole is 32. That whole bar represents 32. We'll see if I can adjust it to where you can see what I'm doing there. There we go. Now, let's look at our fraction here. So it tells us how many parts to partition this whole into. Our denominator tells us that. And it says that we're going to do 8 equal parts. So I'm going to do that. I always do half, and then I do fourths, and then I take and I split those in half. That's how I usually do eighths. All right. Now, so let me think. I have 8 equal groups. So there's a number that goes in each of these. And if you add it up 8 times, it'll give us 32. So what times 8 equals 32? If you said 4, you're rocking and rolling this morning. Good job. So 4. Each of those sections equals 4. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. Yep, just double checking. So how many of those eighths do we have here? We have 3 of them. So we're looking at this part right here. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. So 3/8 of 32 would be 4, 8, 12. All right. So I am so proud of you guys for hanging with us. Multiplying fractions is a tough concept in 5th grade, okay? But there are lots of strategies you can use to help yourself out. Guys, if you would like more help with multiplying fractions, you can send us a message and I will be happy to set up something where we can work on this a little bit more together, okay? So you can send me a message, you can put it in the comments, and I'll be happy to be in touch with you to work on this. Next week, we are moving on to something different, so come back and join us and have a fantastic weekend.